In the late 1940s, Soviet researchers embarked on a clandestine project to push the human body past its biological limits. The objective was straightforward: to completely eradicate the need for sleep. 5 political prisoners, deemed enemies of the state during World War II, were placed inside a sealed isolation chamber. They were exposed to an experimental airborne stimulant, a gas that was highly toxic in concentrated doses, designed to keep them awake indefinitely. Lacking closed-circuit television, researchers had to rely strictly on hidden microphone arrays and small 5-inch thick glass portholes to monitor their subjects. It was a perfect pressure cooker. Inside that room, sleep was chemically impossible, while outside, the scientists were nearly blind to what was actually happening to their test subjects. For the first 4 days, the subjects behaved normally. They talked with one another, though researchers noted their conversations steadily shifted toward the most deeply traumatic events of their pasts. On day 5, that casual interaction abruptly stopped. The prisoners withdrew completely, and a severe, gripping paranoia took hold of the group. They stopped speaking to each other and began obsessively whispering into the hidden microphones. Each subject seemed convinced they could win their captor's favor by betraying the others inside. The researchers watching from the outside initially wrote this off as a standard psychological reaction, assuming the fractured behavior was a predictable side effect of the experimental stimulant. The gas dissolved their human social conditioning. It dismantled their shared sense of reality, leaving behind only the fractured remains of their individual psyches. The situation escalated violently on the 9th day. One of the subjects began running the length of the chamber, screaming at the top of his lungs for 3 straight hours until his vocal cords physically tore. The remaining prisoners didn't react to the agonizing screams. Instead, they calmly tore pages from the books they were given, smeared them with their own bodily waste, and pasted them over the glass, plunging the researchers into a complete visual blackout. This is a dual-axis line chart comparing the chamber's audio levels with its oxygen consumption over the following days. The audio flatlines at absolute zero, but the oxygen consumption skyrockets, showing levels that indicate 5 people engaged in heavy, continuous physical trauma. By the morning of the 14th day, the desperate researchers broke their own rules. They used the intercom to threaten the prisoners, demanding they step away from the door and comply in exchange for their freedom. A single calm voice replied, "We no longer want to be freed." They had entirely rejected the outside world and fully embraced their monstrous captivity. On the 15th day, the scientists flushed the stimulant gas from the chamber and replaced it with fresh air. Immediately, the subjects began begging and screaming for the gas to be turned back on. When soldiers finally opened the heavy doors, they found the food rations past day 5 entirely untouched. The floor was flooded with blood and water, and the 4 surviving subjects had torn large portions of muscle and skin from their own bodies. Their abdominal organs had been manually ripped out and laid on the floor. Their digestive tracts were still functioning, actively processing their own flesh that they had spent the last several days consuming. As the Russian special operatives moved in to extract them, the subjects fought back with unnatural ferocity, severely injuring several soldiers and fatally wounding others with their bare hands and teeth. 15 days of sleep deprivation had resulted in an adrenaline-fueled lethality. Despite their catastrophic self-inflicted wounds, the subjects moved with a strength that overwhelmed trained military operatives. On the surgical table, the survivors displayed physical traits that defied medical logic. One subject struggled so violently against his restraints that the sheer mechanical force of his own muscles shattered 9 of his bones. As doctors attempted to place their organs back into their bodies, they discovered the subjects were completely immune to standard sedatives. They fought furiously against any attempt to anesthetize them. The surgical team was forced to operate without pain medication. Throughout the agonizing procedures, the patients remained entirely conscious, laughing continuously and loudly demanding that the surgeons keep cutting. This is an animation of the EEG monitor attached to one of the subjects. The moment the man closed his eyes, his brainwaves abruptly shift to the slow patterns of deep sleep, and then instantly flatlined as his heart stopped completely. Their biology had reached a point of no return. Their systems now required the waking state to maintain basic function. The second they slipped into sleep, their brains flatlined and they died. Faced with a failed project, the military commander ordered the chamber sealed again. But this time, he commanded 3 of the terrified researchers to be locked inside with the remaining subjects. One of the researchers drew his sidearm. He shot the commander point blank between the eyes, refusing to be trapped inside that metal box. He then turned his weapon on the final restrained test subject. Trembling, he demanded to know what the creature strapped to the table actually was. The subject smiled. He stated that they were the madness that lurks within every person, the primal instinct begging to be set free from the deepest part of the animal mind. The researcher fired his weapon, ending the final subject's life. As the EEG flatlined, the project's data suggested a terrifying possibility, that the madness observed in the chamber was something that stays dormant only so long